Well, there has been a lot going on in the markets. Investors have bombarded with headlines. And the question, of course, is what do you pay attention to? What is notable and what is noise? And here to help us sort through all of that is Bruce Cooper. He is Chief Investment Officer at TD Asset Management. It is great to see you.
Great to be here.
Before we get into specific themes that I want to come at you with in terms of what investors are hearing right now, what is your take on what is happening? I mean, you have had your themes in terms of what you're watching. Have they changed?
Our key theme for us has been we live in a low-growth world. We've had that theme in place for many years now, and if anything, that theme is being reinforced by what we're seeing unfold across the global economy today. Europe remains a difficult economy. I think growth in the emerging world led by China is slowing. The U.S. is actually doing pretty well, but outside the U.S., most of the world is growing at a pretty slow pace, which continues to drag interest rates lower. And so when we wrap it up and think about our view on financial markets, key theme for us this year has been lower returns with higher volatility. And certainly we're seeing that volatility play out in markets in the first couple months of the year.
Yeah, it feels really uncomfortable, I think, for a lot of people. I mean, we've gotten so immune or just used to the fact there hasn't been volatility. It's been really bumpy.
It has been bumpy recently. It's interesting, we're actually looking in January, although it was bumpy, it was actually a great month for investors
it just doesn't
in
feel
Canada
like it.
because bonds were good, and because the Canadian dollar went down, that was actually fabulous for Canadians that owned U.S. or European equities. So it has been bumpy, but so far it's been very good. But we do expect that bumpiness to continue because there are a lot of crosswinds going on in the world today.
All right, well, let's talk about some of the themes, the notable or noise. So I'm going to give you a theme.
Yep.
You tell me whether an investor should pay attention, whether it's notable or whether it's noise. So first part is oil prices from here. I know it's been notable, but from here, should we pay as much attention?
Yeah, I think this has to be notable. I think there's two angles on this. One is the Canadian economy. The oil price is very important for the Canadian economy. So at today's oil price, a lot of production in Canada is not economic. So I think we're going to see continued CapEx reductions. We'll probably see some job losses in Alberta. It'll be depressing for the growth in the Canadian economy. So from that angle, definitely notable. And for sure for the stock market, look, oil is probably the single biggest variable in the Canadian stock market. My own view is that we will see oil over time move higher from here because currently we're below the long-term marginal cost of production. So I think it will move higher. But the volatility in oil today is extreme. And so you will have to navigate some choppy waters in the next 2-3 months.
Okay. When the Fed raises rates, not if, but everyone is obsessed with, will it be in 6 months, 9 months, in 18 months? The question is, when the Fed raises rates, is that notable or noise?
I think it's noise in the sense that whether they raise in June, July, or August doesn't really matter. To us, the big picture is we do not expect meaningful increases in interest rates. And the reason for that is global growth is slow. We've seen that. Yes, the United States is doing better than other parts of the world, but there's only so out of step the Fed can be with, for example, the European Central Bank. We know in Europe they've launched quantitative easing. If the Fed went aggressively to raise rates, the U.S. dollar would go through the roof, which would be, I think, a negative for the U.S. economy. So all in, I think people are focused a little bit on the wrong thing. Exactly when will they go? What they should be focused on is broadly what's the direction of monetary policy going to be in the U.S., and we expect it to be relatively stable, meaning not too much change from where we are today.
Okay. Chinese slowdown, notable or noise?
I think this is notable. From my perspective, this is reinforcing this key theme of slow global growth that we've had for some time. China has been, of course, one of the biggest contributors to growth in the last 30 years, growing at 10% compounded annually for 30 years. But it has slowed. It's gone from 10 to 9 to 8, officially to 7, possibly in reality more like 4 or 5. So I don't think this is what causes a crisis in the world, but I think the fact that China is slowing, along with the fact that Europe is slow, along with the fact that Canada is slow, is just reinforcing this difficult headwind that we have on a global basis.
Okay. Bank of Canada rate moves, and I'm saying, everyone's going to say, well, of course it's notable, but my question is it notable or noise in the realm of the fact that the bank has already tipped us. We know what direction they're moving in now.
Yeah. I think for sure the last move was notable because it caught everybody by surprise.
Clearly.
There's no question about that. From here, probably a little less notable. You can only really shock the market once like that.
Yeah.
From here, I think what you're seeing is central banks around the world are in easing mode, which is a big shock from where we were 3 months ago when everybody's focused on, when's the Fed going to raise rates. We're counting this morning, I think we've had 16 easing moves in the last couple months.
Yeah.
Quantitative easing in Europe, the Central Bank of Canada cutting rates, et cetera, et cetera.
China, Australia.
Australia, you name them.
Yeah.
So I think we can see what's happening in the world today. It's monetary easing again. So in that sense, not as notable.
Okay. Deflation, notable or noise?
I think it's noise from a North American perspective in the sense that we don't believe it's the most likely scenario. Unemployment in the United States is fairly low. Jobs growth has been good. And over time, we'd expect some wage increases to come from that. So I think it's unlikely we're going to get deflation in North America. So I say in that sense, it's noise, but it's for sure something we have to monitor carefully.
Okay, and last one for you. A strong U.S. dollar, I guess in the context of earnings or where else we'll see impacts. Is that notable or noise?
I think it is notable. I said a few minutes ago that it's been one of the key factors actually boosting returns for Canadians. So Canadians should be happy about that. In the last, in January, but also really for the last 3 years, it's been a big tailwind for Canadians. I think it's also notable in the sense that it will be a headwind to the earnings of U.S. companies and indeed a headwind to growth in the United States. At some point with the euro down almost 20% against the U.S. dollar, it's going to make life a little more difficult for U.S. companies versus European companies. So these currency moves we're seeing, definitely notable and key features of the world today.
Bruce, such a pleasure. Thank you.
Always a pleasure to be here.
Bruce Cooper, Chief Investment Officer at TD Asset Management. I'm Kim Parley. Thanks for watching.